Do you have your shot glass? We have to get into the right frame of mind for this.
You got to watch that. You never know, Greg, when you're on, right?
You are on. Hey, well, welcome to another Tequila Sunrise live stream. Scott has made the mistake yet again of giving me the mic, but he's here for adult supervision. Look, I've spent my entire career in supply chain tech. I'm really excited about this particular series. I appreciate you joining me and our superior co-host and the voice of supply chain, Scott Luton, to kick off Take Your Shot, where three founders are going to share what supply chain tech, and particularly theirs, can do for the supply chain industry and the world in general. Scott, you ready?
Really excited. National Wine Day. We got three outstanding founders. We got three outstanding judges. Greg, let's jump in.
What is better than talking tequila on National Wine Day, right? So,
I can't think of
yeah,
things.
look, hey, let me just first announce all of our kind of special guests and partners. This is an incredible collaboration between Tequila Sunrise, Future Proof Fund, Vector Global Logistics, Kubera Venture Capital, all of whom are investors who focus on supply chain tech, brought to you, of course, on Supply Chain Now platform. Scott, you want to share what this thing is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a special supply chain tech pitch show. First of its kind here on Supply Chain Now and Tequila Sunrise for sure. Early stage supply chain tech founders taking their shot. See what we did there? Impressing an esteemed panel of judges. I mean, we got three outstanding judges that have donated their time here.
Yeah.
Intense, rapid fire format, as you might come to expect. So let's get right into it. We got a couple ground rules. Threes are one of our favorite numbers here, Greg.
Today, for sure, right?
Absolutely. Panel of three judges, right? Panel of three supply chain startup founders. Each founder is going to have 3 minutes to pitch. And we'll break the rules here because we're going to give the judges and the founder 5 minutes to kind of offer up their top of mind question or concern or compliment based on what they've heard. So then off we go. So one at a time, three outstanding models to work through, Greg.
Yeah, everybody gets three except the judges, of course, who get extra time. So let's talk a little bit about who our judges are. Robin Gregg, CEO of RoadSync. Balaji Gopinath, who is general partner at Kubera Venture Capital, and Enrique Alvarez, who is CEO of Vector Global Logistics. If you don't know Enrique already, where have you been? All right, let's do this. Let's take it right to the founders and let them show off their stuff.
But first, we need to swoosh in our judges. That'd be important.
That's a good idea. Let's do. Wild West, gang, when you're on Tequila Sunrise. So welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you donating your time here.
Pleasure being here.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks for having us.
Big thanks to Balaji, Robin, and Enrique. So we're ready to tee up our first founder, Greg. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So let's bring into the stream BoxLock founder Brad Rufkus, and we've got some visuals here we want to share as well. So Brad, good afternoon. Welcome to Take Your Pitch. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Scott. So my name is Brad Rufkus, and I'm the CEO and founder of BoxLock, and we are the supply chain access control platform. I appreciate everybody taking the time today out of their busy day to learn about something new. Realize each of you is likely under constant pressure to drive efficiency and constant improvement in your supply chain. If we go to the next slide, with guys like Scott and Greg, we know there's a lot of attention being paid to some of these long horizon innovations, right? Big bets, expensive, big impact, big payoff long term if they can get them to work. While we realize everybody's under this constant pressure to deliver these constant improvement gains, save money, drive efficiency. And so if we go to the next slide, when we look at supply chains, we see that there are transformative efficiencies that can be realized today when you look at supply chains through the lens of access control. And what does that mean? So next slide. When we look at supply chains, we see barcodes on everything from toothpaste to bill of ladings to vials. Next slide. With our technology, we see that every barcode can be a key. Next slide. And so we are the industry leader in contactless, secure, and delivery and storage technology. Our SaaS solutions integrate into existing supply chain solutions to make supply chains more efficient, accountable, and reliable wherever assets are transferred or stored. It's made up of 3 components, made up of devices which are secure, ruggedized, connected, smart locks with integrated barcode scanners in them. We've got a control platform that allows you to manage a fleet of devices, track barcodes, shipments, etc. And that's all powered by an underlying platform with comprehensive APIs, SDKs, and a notification framework. When you think about applications for this technology, we work across first mile, middle mile, last mile. Majority of what we're doing sits across healthcare, looking at specimen collections, medical supply, unattended medical supply deliveries. We do a lot in the MRO space. And we're working with one of the largest cargo Part 135 airlines on parts, working with one of the largest school systems. And then, you think about unattended secure deliveries in the e-commerce space, working with the e-commerce companies and distribution companies. When we look at our business and we look at the things that are in our pipeline, you think about the costs of our lowest cost solutions being about $1 per device per day. If I take 5% of our current pipeline in the addressable market, in the addressable applications within those, it's about a $40 million recurring revenue stream. And so excited about, what we're able to do when you look at supply chains through the lens of access control. Once again, Brad Rufkus, BoxLock. Take a look at getboxlock.com.
Outstanding. We didn't even have to jump in 3 minutes.
Right on time.
Brad. So let's open it up to our judges. Awesome, Brad. Well done. Very well done. I was even slow on the trigger on the slides. And by the way, I'm thinking baseball already. It is take your shot, not take your pitch, as I was themed about. Take your shot. Baseball pitchers and catchers are reporting this week, so my mind's on baseball. All right, so Brad, let's turn over to the judges, and we want to lead off with the one and only Enrique Alvarez. So Enrique, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much for that presentation. A very interesting company, very interesting product. My question will be, what's the main ingredient that makes your culture unique or successful? I want to deep dive into the culture and the purpose of everything that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in surround yourselves with people who've forgotten more than you'll ever have an opportunity to learn. And so it's really about leaning on team members and our advisors and investors and just that great network.
And thank you very much, Enrique. We're going to go to Rob and Greg next. Robin, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Brad, I really enjoyed the presentation. So thanks for sharing it with us. So my question is, I just want to get a finer understanding of the problem that you're solving for your customers. So for your clients, what does this better access control mean to them? Is it about theft? Is it about just being able to drop something off any time? Help me understand a little bit more of the problem that exists and why this is a pain point for your clients.
Yeah, so in some of these industries, a little bit different, but if I just go look at unattended deliveries, we're able to help companies do unattended secure deliveries in off hours. And on the B2B side, they can save up to 40% in their route savings, right? By taking the need to meet someone out of the equation and being able to do it before a facility opens, for instance, without having to have someone, employed and on site to be able to do that.
Great question, Robin. Thanks for that, Brad. All right, Balaji, floor is yours, sir.
So, Brad, great presentation. Congrats on the success. A couple of questions. You seem to have really broad use cases, and a company that at your size, early stage, going after all those spaces is a difficult challenge, and particularly if you're going after consumers as well as the B2B side. So kind of pursuant to that, a couple of things. One is that where do you really see your focus? Because there are specifics in terms of workflow, in terms of how the solutions could work for a given industry, as well as how do you actually provision people, get the compliance in place, and start to measure, and how are you going to sell this? Is it device sale? Is it a software sale? Is it both? So kind of different questions there in terms of how you go to market.
So go to market real quick. A lot of what we've seen that's formed the B2B enterprise side of our business has been off validated inbound use cases. And so on our case, and on our side, we're hyper focused on the lab specimen collection side of the business, and then the MRO space. And so from an outbound perspective, those are very distinct, very clear use cases for us. We do get a bunch of things that come inbound where our technology can help solve those problems. We sell the solution as a SaaS solution, right? So the hardware is a component, and there's a cost there. But what we look at is how do we save dollars per location per day on the SaaS side, and that's really the revenue model around it.
Excellent. All right, so we got about a minute and a half remaining. Any of our judges have an additional follow-up comment? Or Greg?
So on the SaaS side, I'll jump in, Scott, if it's okay. On the SaaS side, why would you charge for the device knowing that you can actually make money on the software and the value seems to be in the data stream and all the points you're collecting there? Why not give away the hardware and make this a full stack solution and really focus on building the software out, knowing that hardware is going to get commoditized over time anyway?
Yeah. So in most of our deals, we negotiate pretty heavily on and able to reduce the price on the hardware device side. The focus is really on that recurring revenue side of it.
And why not focus? I mean, looking at your website, you seem to have a broad use case in terms of many industries. I think the healthcare industry is tremendous opportunity. I think the contactless piece of that and the compliance components around that entire chain of custody is enormous and very fragmented. I think there's a huge win just to focus there. Why not be a company that attacks that space specifically?
From a resource and time perspective, we are doing that. That is the majority of our focus. From the content that you see on the site, I'd look at it more as a catch-all. But that's the one piece that I would look at it from a comms perspective that is that way. And when we do go after markets, it is very specific on the healthcare side, and we're very focused on the specimen collection side of that piece of it. But it's a very valid question.
And how are you? I guess it doesn't really matter as much about having your website focused if no one's necessarily, that's not how you're getting your clients. But to Balaji's point, if you are trying to get sort of wedge into this particular market, really making sure that they feel like there's something there for them and that the solution is for them and that they don't have to imagine how it works for them, I think could be very compelling and helpful for lead gen and to kind of get people through the funnel. So I really would echo what Balaji has been saying about sort of the focus or really conquer these certain use cases being kind of a powerful way to get momentum before kind of getting too broad, since it seems like you have found something that's actually fairly significant and where the value prop is really compelling.
So we got to leave it there. So excellent points. Thank you to our judges.
Yeah, thanks Brad.
To Brad Rufkus. Thanks so much. Brad. All right. So Enrique is back. Hello. All right. Murphy's Law is live and well, folks. Hey, 2 quick comments. First off, to all the wonderful people in the community with comments, it's a little different of a live stream for us. So we're not going to be able to get to all the comments like we typically do, but keep them coming and the replay will be available. One other quick comment here. We want to make sure. So today is Tequila Sunrise, right? It's about entrepreneurial. It's about taking your shot, and talk about someone that's took a big swing and took their shot, Verison. So make sure y'all check out this replay where Greg sits down with Paul Noble, founder of Verison, which is Greg, right off of a $8 million raise. So talk about doing big things in industry.
Yeah, we put them through their paces, explaining how the heck did they get $8 million?
Right. Well, let's move right along. So I want to bring in our next speaker here today. We've got Pickle Robot, represented by their founder, Andrew Meyer. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Thanks for having me, Scott. I'm AJ. I'm one of the founders here at Pickle Robot. Let's go to the next slide. Best piece of startup advice that I ever got was that launch into a fast-growing market. And there are few markets that are as relentlessly growing as e-commerce. And so my team a few years ago spent months looking for worthwhile problems to solve in last mile delivery, which is the largest logistics expense in e-commerce. But we couldn't get convinced about drones, self-driving, maybe walking robots that go up to your doorstep and put a box down. But eventually we followed a delivery driver back to the hub and we started getting really excited. Let me tell you why. We watched a team of 15 people struggle to load 10, 53-foot trailers in the middle of the night with no HVAC, lifting thousands of boxes that could be up to 70 pounds. I spoke to everybody on that team, and not one person had been there more than 90 days. The job is punishing. So the three of us sat down, machine learning expert, that's me, a legged robotics pioneer named Dan, one of my co-founders, and a specialist in real-time systems named Ariana. And we literally stacked boxes up against the wall on pallets. We went down to the liquor store and said, hey, give us all of your excess boxes. And we took hours of video from different warehouses that we could, muscle our way into just to wrap our heads around this problem. And what we realized was that the technology has caught up to where this can actually be done. Next slide. So let's talk about the problem a little bit more. It costs $200 thereabouts to load a trailer. And sure, half of that is the direct labor, the wages, insurance, taxes, et cetera, benefits. But almost as much as labor is all these defect costs, like damaged package, or it went in the wrong truck. Maybe a truck was delayed and the driver has to sit there idling for several hours. And not only just defects, but the turnover is insane. More than 100% labor turnover in these positions is typical in a year. And so there's a lot of recruiting and training costs that get run up. So next slide. By automating this task, we can reduce the effort for sure, but also we can eliminate most of these fringe expenses. In fact, in the US, we think we can save about $90 a trailer. So how big a deal is that? Next slide. It's a lot. It's probably 75 million trailer loads comprise the e-commerce and parcel industry here in the United States, probably 500 million globally. And I will not at all be surprised when we cross the billion trailers loaded per year mark in the next few years, certainly in this decade. Next. So look, it's a worthwhile problem, obviously, but it's definitely deep tech, really hard. And here at Pickle, our strategy is to go after the middle market warehouses with increasingly advanced package handling robotics until we master the trailer load sometime before 2025. The middle market warehouse operators, let's say between 5 and 100 million in revenue, hasn't really been served by the traditional automation industry. They like to do business, $1 million or more at a time. Project costs are completely dominated by design and implementation as opposed to equipment, which is a lot harder to depreciate. And as of November, we've been deploying to full production systems into the kind of middle 3PL fulfillment market. I've got
to chime in here. We got the 3-minute mark.
Yeah, okay.
AJ, I love what you were sharing. Fascinating. I'm going to turn over to the judges now. We're going to start again with Enrique Alvarez. Enrique, the floor is yours.
Yes, Andrea, and thank you once again for that presentation. As you pointed out, that is definitely a problem to solve as a logistics company. Just loading, unloading trucks is one of the bottlenecks in the supply chain for sure. So definitely an important problem to look into. And my question is, as you continue to grow your company and this successful idea, what are the key additions to your team that you need? I mean, what kind of people are you missing?
Yeah, so this is a deep tech problem. So our phase one, which we've kind of just gotten through, was to build up the core engineering and R&D departments. So we're 18 people now, and pretty much all of that is engineering. But we're in market now, so it's time to figure out sales and marketing. And we're focused, laser focused on middle market e-commerce 3PL. So companies maybe run a couple warehouses, maybe 10 warehouses. So how do we chip away at that in terms of hanging out where our customers are hanging out? Especially given that it's COVID, it's hard to get invited to take site tours and do sales calls. Being able to be physically present is so important when you're working something as physical as robotics. So that's the next frontier for us, is to build up that side of the house, and we're out raising money to do that now.
Outstanding. Robin Gregg with RoadSync, floor is yours.
Great. I enjoyed the presentation. I also love pickle. That's just, I feel like I need a pickle t-shirt. So my question for you, so we sold our product into warehouses early. And one of the things that we did that worked well was to have some pilots and proof points. I mean, do you have some beta clients that you've sort of tested out the model?
Yeah. So we actually started, our first year was spent focused on enterprise pilots with big parcel. So you can probably guess who that is. There's not a lot of names. And what we found was that market opportunity is huge, but there's no reason for an enterprise to convert a pilot until the technology is like done, ready to go from the catalog. So we still have some paying clients in that space and doing these pilots in the background, but that's not what I'm most excited about. I think trying to get in production and scaling new features where we go from sorting packages to palletizing packages to unloading trailers to finally loading trailers and do all of that with the same kind of core set of 3PL customers. It's a much more attractive strategy than doing pilots with Walmart or whatever.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Robin. Balaji, your question.
So, Andrew, I'm going to put on my hat to support you.
Great.
Here I go. A couple of questions. One, I like the purpose-built and kind of the focus area. I think that's great. I think going out the middle market is a great thing to do. And I'm a big believer in middle markets and SMEs in general. Question I have is, did you have any challenges with organized labor as you infiltrate some of these areas?
Yes.
And so that's one. And the cost of actually scaling robots and is always a challenge. And so from a raise perspective, is this going to become very capital intensive? So those are my two questions.
Yeah, great question. So I'll take them in turn. So about organized labor. Look, this is such a fast growing market that even if you automated all the things we'd like to, you're not taking any jobs away. It's still growing and growing. So maybe you're just adding more jobs more slowly. But at the end of the day, we really think about adding a robot to a site is enhancing the productivity of the people already on that site, not eliminating jobs. And that's borne out in the projects that we've done. And I think it sounds both like wishful thinking, and it also happens to be true. In terms of direct encounters with labor unions, we did have one pilot that instead of going in New England had to get kind of shifted down south a little bit because of that issue. But, I think that had more to do with an upcoming election than anything else. So your second question is about, capital intensiveness. It's going to be a little bit of a road to actually load a trailer. I mean, we're talking about an 11-figure market opportunity, and we can take off a huge chunk of that. So, right now we're in the middle of a $10 million raise. We just started. But rather than sit and hide out in R&D mode in the lab for 5 years, let's go get in market and start scaling product. And so we're starting to generate some real revenues at the same time. So I think, we're maybe $3.5 million in so far, and we already have kind of, a revenue stream across 5 different customers. So we're just going to continue to do those both things both in parallel, spend the R&D funds from the capital markets towards loading trailers while building up our business in kind of package sortation and palletizing right now.
So just a follow-on question there. I mean, in terms of the actual robots, are these off-the-shelf components?
Yeah, absolutely. We think of ourselves as a software company that deploys to commodity robot arms, and they are increasingly a commodity. They're beautiful products. That technology has come a long way in the last 15 years. But it's no different than, writing software for a tablet or a phone. We write software for robot arms.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Andrew, thank you so much. Big thanks to you and the Pickle Robot team. Best of luck, and we'll be reconnecting with you soon.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right. What a great couple of quick stories already as folks are taking their shot here on Tequila Sunrise. So Rob and Greg and RoadSync is with us, one of our judges here today. RoadSync is doing huge things in the transportation industry, as is U.S. Bank. So, folks, if you want to put your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the U.S. freight industry, be sure to sign up for free for the U.S. Bank Freight Payment Index. You can also check out our previous live streams where Greg and I really sit down with Bobby over at U.S. Bank, and he tells us what's behind the data. So you can learn more at freight.usbank.com. All right, so let's get back to our third founder here today. Let's bring in Matt Motzik, who is founder of RPA Labs. Matt, good afternoon. Let me tee up the slides here, and let's dive in. The floor is yours, Matt.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Matt Motzik. I am the CEO of RPA Labs. We are focused on the future of work in logistics and supply chain. So we really focus on logistics process automation. Our target market is 3PLs, freight forwarders, carriers, shippers, anybody in the logistics supply chain, and also e-commerce logistics arena there. All these companies are buried in emails, documents, and also interactions between vendors, transportation providers, last mile providers, trucking companies, ocean carriers, air carriers, and same things like that. And there's so many manual processes within the whole logistics supply chain industry. Next slide. So we're very focused on, we're vertically focused on logistics supply chain as an RPA provider. The difference between us and let's say UiPath or AutomationWare is that number one, we're vertically focused on logistics. Number two is we already build the software bots, so they're already pre-built, pre-trained, and ready to go. And so what we do is we work off of like 3 pillars. One is document management. The second pillar is customer experience, and the third one is workflow automation. And so we automate processes in these departments: sales department, customer service, accounting, operations departments. And so with our software bots, we can scale and speed around 20 to 50 times faster than manually done. So go ahead, next slide. From the document standpoint, we're really focused on splitting documents. We can actually go into emails. We can go into the attachments. We can read what type of document it is, and we can split the documents out like within the attachment. We can extract data from the documents. We basically work with bills of ladings, arrival notices, carrier invoices, and things like that. Next slide. We also work with customer experience. So customer experience is we can actually basically automate emails. Go ahead and next slide. Go ahead and play this. So this is an example of email automation. So we can actually read emails. We can understand what the customer's looking for. Hey, I'd like to get a quote from Miami to Dubai. Our response bot can actually go in, process the request. During that processing time, it takes maybe like 30 seconds to actually process an email. So that's part of our solution. Any questions?
All right. So we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much, Matt. Let's open up our questions with, once again, Enrique Alvarez with Vector Global Logistics.
Hey, Matt, thank you very much. And this is a fascinating part of the supply chain industry, right? Just these robots and the capabilities and functionalities that they can bring to the industry are amazing. So thank you for that presentation. I wanted to know a little bit more about your team, and then also what are you looking for in an investor or potential partner? What are you missing to kind of launch and reach the next level?
Yeah, great question. So we have a team of 20 people on board. They're pretty much spread out throughout the world. We have representation in Brazil, the US, Canada, and also we have a development team in India as well. And basically what we're looking for probably is probably a VP of product. We're going to be looking for that in Q2. We're also looking for more touch points, but we actually have great interest. We're buried with our pipeline right now. So because we work with freight forwarders, 3PLs, shippers, it's a very large market.
All right. Excellent question, Enrique. Robin, you're next.
Great. Love anything that kills paper and automates processes. So I'm all for it. I think that's great and very much needed. Mm-hmm. My question for you is, you talked a lot about how your platform is purpose built for process automation in the logistics industry. Can you describe some of the ways that you're uniquely positioned to conquer the logistics market because of the things that you've built?
Yeah. And, what we've done is our secret sauce is actually we've built a logistics language library that sits on top of the RPA tools. And so because of that, I've been in the industry for more than 20 years. We're very logistics focused. So we know all the terminology. We know all the acronyms: FCL, LTL, CBM, KG, things like that. So that language library helps go deeper into those process automation for all these companies.
All right. Thanks so much, Robin. Next up, Balaji Gopinath with Kubera Venture Capital.
Hey, Matt. Great presentation. I agree that it's a painful space to address, and there's a lot going on there. In terms of just the email portion alone, that alone seems to be a big challenge. And then the other two components as well are almost companies in themselves. Why try to integrate all three? And how are you actually developing some of your bots? Are you building on top of existing open source? Is this proprietary technology? And secondarily, what's your provisioning to get the data into your system? Because that seems to be the biggest challenge in this space.
Yeah. Great questions. So I'll talk to the last one. So the last one is really easy for us because we have such a light integration with all of our customers. Basically, what we ask them to do is to provide a email forwarding rule. Based on that email forwarding rule, when it comes into, let's say, imports at ABC Company, we can actually have an email forwarding rule go directly to our email, directly to us, and that starts the bot process. And so it's very easy. We don't have to provide, we don't have to go into the APIs and EDIs. We just have an email forwarding rule that just automatically triggers our bot. So that's pretty much how that works on that side there.
So that's a greenfield moving forward. So historical data is still somewhat not addressable.
Historical data, usually what we do is we do have an endpoint that we look up data through like an ERP system or a TMS. So there is an endpoint that we go to actually get the data and then retrieve back, provide back to the customer. So yes, we do that.
All right. We still have about a minute or so left. Judges, any final comments for Matt?
I'll just chime in again. I mean, I think the email portion alone is again a huge challenge, and I think even from a data and potentially AI perspective, moving out of RPA into more predictive modes around that's a great way to focus and get sticky versus some of the other things you're looking at.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we actually can not only read the emails and answer like a lot of the top buckets, such as can I get a quote from A to B? Where's my shipment? Here's how I can set up a new shipment. Can you please set it up for me? So we can actually do all those. We can answer all those questions. But the big thing, like what you're saying, is we can actually take the data and we could say, okay, here's your top customers that have asked you for quotes. Here's your, we can actually really get really deep into the analytics, which is very
excellent. Important. Thank you so much, Matt. Well done. Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that. We look forward to reconnecting with you again soon. Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks,
all right. Thank you. How many times? You can say thank you about 27 times here on National Wine Day, I believe. Folks, great job. Great job. Really appreciate the judges. What 3 incredible founders and their business models. We've had a ton of feedback in the comments. One of the things that they all spoke to, Greg, before we turn it back over to you for some final comments there, is digital transformation, right? Folks, Kevin L. Jackson leads our Digital Transformer series here on Supply Chain Now. Had a home run interview with M. Nadia Vincent. It's like 2 digital transformation mastermind worlds collided. You're not going to miss this podcast that we drop on February 22nd on our Digital Transformer series. You can find that at Supply Chain Now. Okay, so Greg, again, for our first Take Your Shot, I've got my 18 pages of notes. Enrique added one.
He added a page. Yeah.
How could you? I mean, between these judges and these founders, how couldn't you? But Greg, why don't you take us out?
Yeah. So obviously a whirlwind. Thanks to the founders for sharing their lifelong dreams live and with our judges. And thank you to our judges, Enrique and Robin and Balaji. I really appreciate your questions, your insights, your challenges, frankly, of these founders. And of course, Scott, special thanks to you for driving this, being the adult in the room and making sure that we got everything done on time. Just a couple really quick observations that I've made. These are just my really quick takeaways from what I saw. So for BoxLock, I think what needs to happen there is what I would like to hear as an investor is a stronger enunciation of the compelling problem. I'm sure that I think we know what the compelling problem is, but walking into a room with founders, enunciating that clearly is going to be critical. With Pickle Robots, and I think Balaji, you sort of Pickle Robot, sorry, you alluded to this. Why you? And who else could be doing this? There are dozens, maybe hundreds of companies in the robotics area. What is special about what you're doing that sets you apart from the rest? And finally, with RPA Labs, I think 2 things jump out at me. Either a more defensible tech, as I think, Balaji, you were alluding to, and Robin, you addressed as well, or an extreme niche focus. When I think about what RPA is, it to me is at least similar to accounting, and a lot of accounting small ERP, micro ERP companies made their way in the industry by focusing on a very specific industry. I see significant opportunity here for that. So I want to also thank our friends Carrie Davis and Shane Reiser from Future Proof Fund, who helped us put all this together. And they're doing all the work on Clubhouse, where you can go now. If you're a Clubhouse member, go to Clubhouse, and we're going to talk about this there. So join us there. Remember these final points. Again, thanks to the entire crowd who didn't get to sound off today, and we appreciate your patience and attention. Remember, of course, TECHquila is part of the Supply Chain Network, and be sure to check out all of our other shows and join us wherever you get your podcasts or YouTube. TECHquila Sunrise has its own YouTube channel. You can also find us, of course, on supplychainnow.com. Look, I'm holding a pen. You know I took notes, Scott, because I'm holding a pen. On behalf of the entire team here at Supply Chain Now, and of course at TECHquila Sunrise, I want to encourage you to, as I always say, acknowledge reality, but never be bound by it. Thank you.